Hey, everybody, and welcome back to whatever this is called, the podcast where we turn our questionable tastes into quality content. I am Scott Taylor, and I'm here as always with Mr. Steven Garcia. Steve, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you doing, man? I can't wait to get into this list or this
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. Today we're talking about our pop culture guilty pleasures. Those things that you secretly love, even though we probably shouldn't. The music that's too cheesy, the movies that are too weird, or the food choices we know we'll get later. Everybody's got a few. And instead of hiding ours, we're dragging them out into the light. So Steve and I are each bringing our own guilty pleasures to the table, and we're going to see just how much shame we can pile on ourselves in this episode. Steve, I know there's not a lot of shame to what we're going to talk about today. It's just stuff we love unapologetically, right?
Yes. It's just stuff that's, when I bring it up to people, they're just like, "What? God, that's too cheesy." But you got to love it. I love it, and a little side note here. Like I worked at a lot of the record stores and music stores when I was young, and you get around a certain type of elitist kind of attitude about stuff. And I used to be like in the '90s. That was me to a T. But I think after working around it so much, I started to realize that, like, dude, I like this. So what? It doesn't make me uncool, or it makes me cooler. It's just what I like. And so now after that, I just kind of own everything, which I'm sure you do too, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's not a lot that I'm afraid to say. Oh, I like that at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
There definitely was a time and place
Yeah.
where I felt that I needed to live up to other people's favorites, but
Yeah.
not anymore. By this point, I am who I am. There's not much that's going to change about me, and
Yeah.
take me or leave me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you should have seen it in the music part of, man, it was just so like, oh, you like this album? Yeah, I liked them better when they played with so and so. That was a better album. It's like, okay, who cares? Just ring me up. I can't believe I used to be like that too. Like in the '90s, I was just very into what I was into, and like it defined me. All these choices that after a while, you're just like, whatever.
I remember as a kid going out to dinner with my friend's dad, and we were talking about music, and he was like, "Do you guys like the Beatles?" And I didn't know the Beatles back then, right?
Yeah.
The most I didn't. I was starting to get into grunge. I'd grown
Yeah.
up just on like Phil Collins, like and the Monkees, like
Yeah.
and Weird Al. That was it. And so I was like, "Yeah, I like the Beatles." He's like, "Oh man, I can't believe you like the Beatles." And I was like, I remember going, "Well, I mean, they're not that great."
Uh,
I'm just kind of adapting to what he was saying, and he was just trying to, get me to
uh-huh.
change my opinion and mess
Right.
with
Right.
me. But I feel like when you're younger, you're more apt to do that and fall in
Yeah.
line with other people, especially
Yeah.
in working at something like a record store or
Yeah.
even a video store. You're gonna get that snobbery.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. It. Even now when I hear people like music wise, just are like, I don't like that. I mean, I have things that I don't like myself, but if I don't like something, I just don't listen to it. I don't have to tell people that sucks. There's few exceptions I will do that, but for the most part, it's just like I like music, so I'm going to listen to anything that really and there's some music on my list here that I want to talk about that they're yeah, sure they're cheesy and stuff, but you know, it's still good. I like it.
hmm
As long as it kind of makes me feel something, then I love it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start with music. What do you
All right.
what do you got down that path?
Well, as a kind of broad base or broad umbrella, I'm really into one-hit wonders, and a lot of them are really cool. A lot of them are really good, and a few examples. Let me get my list up here. Aha, Take on Me. I think it's a one-hit wonder, but everybody loves it, and it's great, and it's cool. They actually had a lot of hits in Europe. They were really big in Europe, but in the U.S., they're only kind of remembered for this song.
That's kind of like saying my girlfriend goes to another high school when it comes to one hit wonders.
Exactly. That's a good one. And then Primitive Radio Gods. Do you remember this one? Standing outside a broken phone booth with money in my
Yep.
hand.
Yep.
That one brings back. I mean, I don't hear it often now, except maybe when I play it or I watch a TV show from that time. But that takes me back to, it was such a weird point. I was in Santa Rosa, living in Santa Rosa, and just had a bunch of jobs. And I was young. I was probably 20, 21, somewhere around there. And just living with a good friend of mine who just made me laugh all the time. It was just, and his sister was great. And it just takes me back to that time. I was like heartbroken still from my first love, and at the same time trying to like date other girls, and it was horrible. But yeah, that takes me back to that time. Another one I have is Modern English, I Melt With You, or Melt With You. I can't remember what it is. It was one of the songs of the 80s, new wave era kind of thing. And then the New Radicals, You Get What You Give. Now, everybody gives me crap for this one, but it's got a great hook. I like the whole album, even that's off of. There were some really bangers on that one that I think one or two of them kind of were released as singles, but for the most part, not. This is the only famous song from that album, and all my friends would be like, "Dude, that's just cheesy." It's like, yeah, but it's good. I love it. It's so. And then the last one I have is, and the guy that wrote that, he quit after this album. He's I don't know. They reformed, I think, for Biden's when he got elected in 20, but that was it. They just did that song and they were gone. And then Deep Blue Something, Breakfast at Tiffany's. I mean, that was, I don't know, have you heard that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So that one, I love that one. I was taking voice lessons at some point, and this was one of the songs that because it was just right in my range, and it was really easy. It's only like 3 chords. And so, I mean, what's your take on one-hit wonders, Scott?
Well, thinking about that specifically, that song, to me, it's very much like it's just someone having a conversation, but they turn it into a song. It's like, well, yeah. I said, how about Breakfast at Tiffany's? And she said, I think I remember that film. And I said,
I think I kind of liked it.
Yeah. And I said, well, that's the one thing we got. It's kind of like Hootie and the Blowfish, when he's like talking about his girlfriend. Dolphins make me cry.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Like, and he's just like, and then he just goes through the Dylan lyrics.
Yeah.
Said I shot a man named Gray. It's like a quarter of the song is a Bob Dylan song. Like,
yeah.
So it just makes me think of like people just talking through like a conversation in song.
Yeah, and I had this CD called, I think it was called VH1 Crossroads, I want to say, maybe. And it just had a collection of live performances. So it had a lot of different bands on there. And they were all doing basically there was some electric, like live performance, electric full band, but there was a couple that had just acoustic performances. Or it could have been all acoustic. I can't remember. But anyways, this was on there. And I remember a Sunvolt song was on there. And I think a Dave Matthews Band song was on there. So I got it for basically those two. But then I heard this one and I was like, who is this? And from the get-go, I was hooked on it. But, it's one of those where you hear the rest of the album and go, oh.
Yeah.
And again, not to say that, oh, this sucks. But it wasn't. It just was like, oh, God. All right.
Well, with the time of cassettes and CDs and stuff, it was really easy to get suckered in by one hit wonder.
Yeah.
Bands where you just have that one song, that's it.
Yeah. It was because it just was based on charts. So, if you liked a song, but then this other song was like number 6 on the chart, then it was going to be on there. And so okay, cool. And it didn't depend on a whole album from one artist to kind of sell it. And yeah, it was good. It was one of those early CDs that had the CD-ROM, and so you would put it in I'd put it in my PC, and at that time it was just pictures. Click on this picture gallery, and it would just be pictures of like a dog on the side of the road with the album cover, and just these, and you'd be like, oh wow, I'm Buck Rogers in the 25th century, it's just. But
when I think of one hit wonders, the specific one that stands out to me is Crash Test Dummies.
Yeah, that was on some lists that I looked at. That was on a lot of them.
Yeah, because that's literally was it. They had God Shuffled His Feet, which is the name of their album too, and they tried with that, but it just didn't go anywhere. Just that one song, and now I hear that song, on like a '90s channel,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay. But that was another one. Was just like, here's a little story I'm gonna tell you, and move my voice up and down a little bit.
That one and I get knocked down, but I get
Yep,
up again. And
a little Chumbawamba.
oh Jesus.
At least Chumbawamba made it onto all of those. Now that's what I call rock and stadium mix and all of that.
Yeah. Ugh.
Well, I have a music one,
Okay.
and it's kind of in line. It's enjoying white pop female singers of the late '90s, early 2000s. So I'm
Letters to
talking,
Cleo?
yeah.
Is
I
that
mean,
on
Letters Cleo, lead singer, but
Okay.
more of Kay Hanley's great, and she's done so much stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking more of Lisa Loeb, Michelle Branch,
Okay. Gotcha.
Vanessa
Gotcha.
Carlton,
Yeah.
Natalie Imbruglia, the Lilith Fair without Lilith, right? Those ones where you can just bop along and I need you and I
Yeah.
feel you, that you can just bop along and sing it and it gets stuck in your head. Like those, I don't own any of the albums, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't own
Right.
any of them, but the songs themselves just will make me happy. If it comes on
I had the
radio,
Lilith
I'll sing
Fair.
it.
I had the Lilith Fair CD, so I'm with you on this. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just and they kind of they've kind of, it still comes back. Like you've got Olivia Rodrigo now, right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of in that light. She's got more depth to her, but it's more that late '90s feel of a just single.
Is that what
female
she is?
singer.
Because I was thinking the other day that there isn't really, and I'm unplugged from a lot of the pop music today, but it seems like you were kind of hinting at, though, like Lilith Fair kind of stuff. There was really this attempt and really effort to kind of solidify a scene of female artists.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to do that today because I think it's kind of already there. But I mean, I was thinking about like, well, what artist today could kind of go back to that and kind of fit in? Is Olivia Rodrigo one of those?
I think she probably could. I mean, I'm not the most in-depth historian of Olivia Rodrigo. I didn't get my master's degree writing a dissertation about her, but I've seen some stuff. I've seen her play with Robert Smith from The Cure.
Oh, really?
Doing that live, I forget which Cure song it was.
It's probably
So
a love
she's-
song or
Yeah, so she was really in, so she can do that vibe too. And she seems very talented. So
Yeah,
I think she could be in that group.
yeah. One of them just brought out. They did the band, not the Commodores, but it was one of those bands, R&B bands from, I think it was Earth, Wind and Fire. That's what it was. One of those ladies of today, the pop singers of today, brought out Earth, Wind and Fire, and they did one of the songs. So that's cool. I like when they do that because, I feel like in music there should be this kind of passing of the torch kind of thing, but also reflecting on the past and kind of respecting where all this came from. And I like when artists who, I don't care what genre, it's like when they do that, it kind of touches my heart a little bit.
Yeah, I've always said that any live performance should at least have one cover, right? Something
Yeah.
that they love, that they're enjoying,
Yeah.
and that they like to do.
Exactamundo.
Musically, the only other one I have is my affinity for Weird Al. Right? I feel like Weird Al is the ultimate like guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Not definitely. He's mainstream. He's woven into the fabric of pop culture.
And
But-
deliberately so, man.
Yeah, but it's still something where if you say you like Weird Al, most people will look at you, a little strangely. But the
Did you s-
talent that they have
Yeah.
is just insane.
Did you see Toby at when you went and saw him?
I did not see Tobias there. No, I was walking around a little bit before, and I think he was up in the table seats.
Okay.
But I didn't get to see him, unfortunately.
Also, two other of my friends, Brett and Neil. Brett was the one that got together the band that I played with in March. They went with their wives, and they were there too. So yeah.
I feel like a Weird Al show just brings everybody together. Like I posted the picture of me and him from the after meet and greet thing, and people were just like, "Oh yeah, I was there too." Or
Yeah.
I'd get it, something on my Instagram story. So I'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
my son's there too." It feels like people just come together for it and out of the woodworks for Weird Al because it crosses generations.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
it's still he can sell out something like that, but you still feel a little kind of like, and it might be a little post traumatic nerd shame from elementary and school and
Yeah.
high school and that sort of stuff. But the talent there is just insane. Being able to jump between all those different genres
Yeah.
and not just spoofing stuff, but his original stuff is really good. He
Yeah.
tries to do songs in the same vein as other styles and bands. So like Everything Is Wrong, they might be giants. And then you just get the goofy, just making fun of one specific song.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so talented, but I still feel like if I put it on, it's like Weird Al.
Well, he sold out the Forum in L.A. the night before, or the night after. I don't know, but yeah, he's still. I think he's in whatever climate that you're at, or in your whether it's personal or whether you're stressing about work or whatever. He's always the light, really kind of. Because when I hear about Weird Al, it's always something good and something, like he really doesn't take himself that seriously. And what he does, he just enjoys it, and he sees the effect it has on people. So that's like good enough. That's all he really cares about, So
Yeah, and he always punches up, never down.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and you got to love those. That's when people have staying powers when they do that.
yeah. All right. Yeah. What else you got? You got any more, or do you have one like a guilty pleasure that another one?
I'll tie into this, and
Okay.
it's pop culture related in a general sense, but it's my need to get autographs and have celebrity encounters, because people would be like, you spent money for this autograph, or you waited 4 hours for this person's autograph, and I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
like just so it'll be on your wall or in a book or something. Like, yeah, this is how I get my happiness. Like this is where my dopamine comes from. I can
yeah.
think about it and get excited for it. It can happen, and
Yeah.
then it just goes on a shelf somewhere, and I move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
Which
don't rain on other people's parades. Come on.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to let people enjoy what they're going to enjoy.
Yeah, and it's that dopamine of not thinking that the person will remember me forever. That's the thing that you have to try to get around. You have to be like, yeah, I'm not going to make a memorable experience where they're telling their kids about me. This is just for me. So just enjoy it, be in the moment, and have fun with it.
And if Aaron Gray is still out there, still love you, woman.
Call Steve. Call Steve.
I should put
around.
up that picture of me and Aaron Gray, and I'll put it up right now.
That's a great one. It's a great one. The sweater.
Yeah.
You're so happy.
I remember, were you there when I was talking to her, right? And I was just like, "What? Why aren't you in more stuff?" And she's just like, "Well, it's not a lot for women over for whatever in their middle age or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, you still look great though." And yeah, I was seriously just, oh my goodness, if that, I mean, oh man,
Yeah, I don't know if she's married or anything like that, but you
Yeah, she is.
could have
She
shot
is.
your shot. Oh,
well, I was thinking about it. I was like, hey, I was thinking about the rest of the shows. Like, I should go back and be like, hey, let's just go have dinner after you're done with this, man. Oh, my goodness. But yeah, she was, Buck Rogers, hot. Silver Spoons, hot. I don't know. I think those are the two things that I remember her the most. But now she's married, but she does a lot of, and I don't feel as bad because I actually remember about a year or two after that, she was in like these cookie commercials. And I was like, hey, don't call it a comeback, And but then I hadn't seen her, and then I looked her up the other day, and she does a lot of Hallmark movies, like horror movie type of Hallmark movies, like So, yeah, I'm glad that she's doing what she's doing. She doesn't. Yeah, she deserves the spotlight. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Gray.
And they say don't meet your heroes, but it's like, why not? Just do it. If they disappoint you, they disappoint you, But the worst I've had is just a quick interaction, and that's really all you're paying for. And that's the worst that happens. It's a quick, hey, love your stuff, love this, and then they just say, hey, thanks, and you move on.
Yeah. Well, I think my sister and I actually too. We went to a con here at the Santa Rosa Fairgrounds, probably about 2018, 17 or 18, and we met LeVar Burton, and this was around. Let's see. Oh, I already just said 18. But he wouldn't shake your hand. He just did fist bumps. And then he was very serious. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. What's your name? Oh, nice to meet you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my sister talked to him more than I did. But next to him was I forget his name, but the son from Breaking Bad. And I have a picture with him too, but I'm not going to post that picture because I look like I just ate about 1,000 marshmallows because I look like one. So even more so than this. But so yeah, it's always a thrill because like Adam Baldwin, remember we met him when I met Aaron Gray, and I asked him, "Hey, what was it like to work with Stanley Kubrick?" And he's like, "Oh, I wouldn't know. I was drunk the whole time." And so when I saw him at the con with LeVar Burton. And we got there really early, so we were like the first ones to even talk to all these people before they even started charging us. And there was no lines or anything, so we walked in, and I saw him, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing, man?" He's like, "Oh, great, man. How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, fantastic. Hey, I remember you. I met you at a con probably around 2010." He's like, "Oh, really? Which one was that one?" It was the WonderCon in San Francisco, and he goes, "I was like, yeah, I think probably, if you say so, because I do a lot of cons." And I'm like, "Yeah, I asked you what it was like to work with Stanley Kubrick, and you said, I don't know, I was drunk the whole time." And he's like, "Oh, man, really?" And I'm like, "No, that's cool, though, man. I know you were just BSing."
Yeah, yeah. He was just joking, and then he goes,
Yeah.
"No, man, it was awesome. It was awesome."
Yeah.
It's like you got your line.
Yeah, it was just, the idea that you're talking, and like Aaron Gray, like, these people are just people, and they just happen to work in this industry where everybody just knows them for everything. So yeah, he was cool. And then there's a lot of people at this con because they had this military thing or this like kind of group discussion in one of the buildings there on the fairgrounds about military movies, and he was in that panel talking about like military movies and stuff because he's been in a couple, I think, and Independence Day and Full Metal Jacket and all that. But and they're just people making a living. So
yeah, and most of them when you're at that level it's like 40, 50, 60 bucks, nowadays. Like that's kind of the lower tier stuff.
Yeah.
And those are the people that do the con circuit for a living, like you said.
Yeah.
So they're willing to hang out and talk with you, and they're in customer service. That's their role, right?
Yeah.
So
because they're a product now. They're their own brand, So.
That level, and some do it better than others. Some just show up and just have 8x10s and that's it. And then others, have a full backdrop and have their own merch that they bring. I met Keith Coogan last year, and he was awesome.
Yeah.
Every interaction with him was great, and it's like, okay, great. $40 is an autograph and photo. And then the photo, his wife's like, "Okay, now do this pose. Okay, now do this pose." So he has this set thing. And so you end up with like 8 pictures with him in different poses.
Oh, nice.
And he loves it. He's enjoying it.
Yeah.
Even the Weird Al one, it was, I believe the VIP experience was $240. But it wasn't tied to a ticket. So they used to be tied to like you had to have VIP tickets in the first like 4 rows. Mm-hmm. So you're paying the most money for tickets, and then they were adding on. Mm-hmm. Now you could have a lawn seat and you could get VIP added on, which I think is amazing. I think that's the way to go about it. But it you get a merchant, we got a blanket, you get your lanyard, and then you get the autograph and a poster and a picture. And some people complain online. They're like, "I can't believe Al doesn't, he looks so sad in between photos." It's like, no, he's just not smiling. He just did like a 2-hour show where he's
tired.
Working out the whole time, and he's 65 years old, great shape, but he's, he can't just keep a smile on his face for, 2 hours afterwards.
Yeah, that's rough, man. I love that VIP experience because I had one with one of my favorite bands, Sparta, probably about 2 or 3 years ago. They came to San Francisco, and there was only 6 of us that did VIP. So he did it before the show. Jeez, sorry, excuse me. And got to talk to him about a bunch of stuff. He showed me how to play a certain song that I was on, and I was like, I was right. I figured it out right. Yeah, there was 6 of us, but two of the VIP people didn't even. They just got the ticket to get in early
Mm.
because they got in. They went straight to the bar, and then they went straight to merch, and then sat down at the table. And I remember the lead singer. His name is Jim Ward. He's like, they're at the merch table, and he's like, they realized that that merch table is going to be there all show, right? I'm like, and so yeah, they didn't even come and talk. They got sat down with their drinks and just talked among themselves. They're really kind of like, you ever see that skit, The Assholes on Saturday Night Live? They were kind of like that. They
Yeah.
were just like saying something or whatever it was, you know. And so yeah, it's a good experience.
There's still a lot of disposable income out there right now because just going to a convention yesterday or the other day, and it's just lines and lines of people capping off lines.
Yeah.
Tara Strong, is that her name? I think she does a lot of voice acting. My Little Pony and Teen Titans. Huge line, and it's like $80 for 10 or 120 if you bring something yourself.
Oh.
And it's like that's a decent chunk of cash.
Yeah.
A lot of the other ones were like $80 if you brought something yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it was like $20, $30. You could get an autograph. I think I paid maybe $40 for Peter Mayhew to sign a giant Chewbacca Pez dispenser. It wasn't much at all back then.
We saw him smoking outside the WonderCon, didn't we?
Yep. Yeah, that was a scene you'd always see at WonderCon because he'd be there every year. And you just see this giant hulk of a guy just smoking outside and then making his way back to his table.
Oh, man. Yeah. Good times. Good times.
You got any other guilty pleasures?
Another one is what you wouldn't tell by looking at me because, I'm just a lot of person. There's a lot of extra weight on this person. But I love dance movies. I don't know why. It started when I was a kid. They're often thin on plot, but they have energy and they dance. I love watching people dance. I follow a lot of dancers, professional dancers anyway, on Instagram or like any kind of social media, just because I have a cousin who dances, and anytime we have a family gathering and some music comes on, I know he's going to get up and start dancing, and I love to watch him dance because I think it's the idea of that freedom that they have to just kind of, I'm not a dancer, and so, yeah, that freedom, I think, for me to watch that, in a professional sense, but also just like at a wedding or something and people are getting down. Like my cousin got married last year and he just takes over the dance floor. Like everybody, he's not professionally trained, but he could dance all these kind of dances. He just loves to dance. And there was like some professional dancers there from like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders or some sort of NFL cheerleaders were there. And they were like, wow. And they were dancing with him and stuff. And he just loves to dance, And so I think that I have like Breakin' 1 and 2 when I was a kid. Like it was break dancing, just I love it. And then Footloose was the one that really kind of caught my attention really a lot because looking back at that, Tom Cruise auditioned for it. And then I found out the audition was you just had to dance. And the director wanted the director was a dance guy anyways. He was Herbert Ross, and he was a dancer, and he broke his ankle, and so he couldn't dance anymore. So he would choreograph, and then he became a famous choreographer in New York. And so he does all these dance movies now, or he did this one as a dance movie. He also did The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. But yeah, Footloose. The town you can't dance in. The soundtrack was slamming. The soundtrack was like on the number one was for like a year. I don't know, for some ridiculous amount of time. And then I had Step Up, which launched Tatum. What is his name? Channing Tatum. They're these cheesy movies that are kind of like, they have to have a dance off or some sort of thing to get together and dance. And then Step Up 3. I didn't like 2 too much. Step Up 3, though, took it to the next level. It was kind of like in 3D. I never saw it in 3D, though. I should have, but I never did. But it was like these intricate dance. Like they had, my favorite one was when they're dancing in this circle, and the main character, his nickname is Moose, and he comes in on his bike like a BMX. And when he does it, he accidentally hits this lever, and the place where this round thing where they're dancing on, the water shoots up from a little bit from the middle, and they're dancing in water, and it's just I don't know why. It's just it's pure cheese, but I love it. And then my last one that I have is Center Stage, which is a ballet-based kind of dance movie. Came out in 2000, and I was working at what is it, the Virgin Megastore in San Francisco, and the main character from Center Stage was in there, and I walked up to her and I go, "Hey, were you in that movie Center Stage?" And she goes, "Hey, how you doing?" "Yes, I was." And I was like, "Whoa!" And I had so many questions about the movie. I'm like, so when you guys were doing, she was just like, "I'm surprised that you know this," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's just one of my guilty pleasures is dance movies." And she was dancing with the San Francisco Ballet at that time. And she was in some other stuff, some sci-fi channel stuff, some zombie stuff that she was in. I can't remember, but yeah, I just love the dance movies. Give me a good dance movie, I'll probably check it out. I don't know if there's been any lately, but if there is, let me know in the comments because I would love to watch some new ones. What about you? How do you feel about dance movies, there, Scotty?
I think it's interesting you bring up that you're not a fan of Step Up 2, but you love 3, because a lot of people say Step Up 2 is the better of them because at the end, Han's frozen in carbonite, and it ends on such a downer that's just like life, right? And Step Up 3 just has a bunch of Muppets.
Well, I think you are barking up the wrong tree there, buddy.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Star Wars. I'm sorry. And but yeah, no, dance movies aren't for me. What about Save the Last Dance? Is that in your list? Or is that just a movie based about dance that doesn't have a lot of dance in it?
I mean, I'll watch it, but I watched it before because of that dance element. Sometimes I'll watch a dance movie and I'll be like, it's kind of, I don't know. Some hit me and some don't. Step Up 2 didn't hit me. It was just too, dare I say, too rote, too like one note, which a lot of these dance movies are. I mean, it's just basically a thin on plot, overflowing with energy, and a killer soundtrack. That's basically what a dance movie is. But yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get particular about dance movies, but the dancing there has to be some sort of energetic kind of dance. Sometimes, like in Save the Last Dance, and what is it? What was that cheerleader movie that everybody loved? I saw it in the theaters. It had Kirsten
Bring It On.
Dunst.
Is it Bring It On? Are those the Bring It On
I think
movies?
it is Bring It On. When people dance awkwardly, that kind of turns me off. There's a scene where she's dancing. I don't know what she's doing. I think it's called dancing, but it's the scene where she's dancing on her porch. Not Kristen Dunst, this other lady. And that kind of just it kind of takes me out of it because if you don't have rhythm and you're dancing in a dance movie, like I don't know, that's just doesn't add up. It doesn't connect, So that kind of takes me out. So there was in Say the Last Dance, there was an awkwardness to her dancing that I just didn't. It just kind of was like, well, I could do that,
Mm-hmm. I just had an idea for a movie. What if it's how there's always those grizzled, we got to go back into this, and it's the old dudes going back into either a heist or some sort of thing that they were really good at when they were younger and now they're out of it. But what if it's a dance movie where it's all these old guys who were big dancers and now they have to go back into it?
Yeah.
And now they have to get back into it and they have to be dancers and they have to do really good at it to save their retirement home or something like that. And they have to get into a competition with a bunch of younger kids.
That's amazing. I would watch that. I would be like, "Hey Scott, what are you doing tonight? Let's come on over. Let's watch this old farts dance."
Bryan Cranston. Let's cast it. Bryan Cranston, right? He'd be in it.
No, I want to go older. I want to go like Stallone, Morgan Freeman type of old. Like, let's get old. If we're gonna do that. I wrote a movie probably when I was around 10. It had to have been because Breaking had come out, so I was around 10 years old. And I wrote it with my two cousins, and it was about we have this dance-off after school against the rival dance club. And, oh, no, I got in trouble and I have after school detention, and we're like pleading with the teacher to let us go, and at the last minute she does, and so the ending is us just dancing in the backyard on the grass, and my aunt taped over it with her soap operas. But
What if when they remake it now with with you still playing a like 12-year-old kid?
Up until like about, I don't know, 20 years ago, I still had the script for it. I wrote it on regular binder paper, and I don't know what happened to it. I think maybe my mom still has it. I don't know. I'll ask her. But it was floating around for a while. We could remake it. Man, those are the days when you're a kid. Yeah, I was. Dance movies, love them. Yeah, what do you got, man? What's next?
So one of my movie guilty pleasures. I love horror movies, right? Horror movies are great, but I also love offbeat Christmas movies. So Christmas movies that have Christmas as a backdrop for another type of movie, or just specifically it's a different take on Christmas in the season. So one of our favorites is Fat Man, with Mel Gibson as Santa Claus. And it's got Walton Goggins as a hitman. There's a kid who is this rich, snobby kid who doesn't get first place in the science contest. And so he hires Walton Goggins to be like a hitman on this girl that won. And he's maybe like 10 years old, 9 years old, something like that. And so Walton Goggins gets the girl to admit she cheated, like her parents helped her, and gets the kid the prize, right? And so Santa, played by Mel Gibson, doesn't leave the kid a present. And so the rich kid goes, I want you to kill Santa Claus. And hires Walton Goggins to go find Santa. And Walton Goggins has his own little story against Santa that when he was little, like, Santa didn't help him.
Oh.
It turns out he was abused and beaten by his dad.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't one of those 50 million and then I'm out type of things.
Yeah. Yeah, they so Walton Goggins is going to try to find Santa. So, and it's, a very realistic situation. Mel Gibson's this grizzled Santa, lives, in Alaska, right? Because he can't live in the North Pole. And so the kids don't believe as much anymore. Turns out the government would subsidize him because it would spark the economy, right? For every dollar they give Santa, they'd spark, $10 in the economy. So the kids aren't believing as much anymore. So they get him and his elves to sign on for military contracts because the elves are so good at making stuff, right, in their workshops. And so they sign on and they get the military involved. It's a Christmas. It's based around Christmas and Santa and stuff, but it twists it just enough that you're like, this is awesome. Horror movies, Black Christmas, Krampus is great. It's a great Christmas and horror movie. Gremlins, the original Christmas movie that's not a Christmas movie.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, too, that one we saw with it last year, remember? You remember?
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
Yep, and that's one of the original, Christmas horror movies there.
Yeah. You
can have horror movies. You can have, this is similar to dance movie, but a musical, right? Kind of step and step, pun intended, with the dance movie. Anna and the Apocalypse. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's a set at Christmas time, and it's a zombie musical. And it's about a high school zombie outbreak, and this girl is singing about she's going off to college, and she likes this boy, and stuff. And it's got great music and great, choreographed dance routines in it.
Yeah.
But it's about Christmas time. It's set at Christmas time. It's not really about Christmas, but it's set with the backdrop of Christmas. And so those are the types of movies that I can't get enough of. Anytime there's something where it's a Santa and blood on the cover, I'm like, I'm in. Or it's, something unique styled about Christmas.
What was that one with the guy from Stranger Things? He played a Santa Claus.
A Violent Night.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's a good one. David Harbour.
Harbour, yeah.
That's he's just a grizzled Santa Claus again, and he's ends up helping save this family under hostage. Anytime they make Santa have some supernatural powers, but he's grounded in a lot of reality. Those are so good. Give me that backdrop, and I'm a happy camper.
What was the night? Violent Night? Is that what it was?
Yeah. So I think that was Violent Night.
Okay.
And then
I'm writing that down.
There's been other ones more recently that have come out on like Shudder. I forget the name of it, but it was they took these animatronic robots that were surplus from the military for just murdering people erroneously, and they sell them now to the public as just like statue robot type things, and they supposedly wiped their memories, and it's a Santa Claus in a toy shop, and then something happens, the power surge, and it gets its memory back, and it just starts slashing people with an axe and going around the town. It's just this robot Santa Claus. These premises are just insane.
Uh, that sound good to me, man. And I remember you sending me that last year. You sent me, I think it was right before we did that Bill Murray Christmas movie.
Scrooged, yeah.
Scrooged, yeah. You sent me the trailer for that Mel Gibson, Walter Goggins one, and yeah, I think I'll check it out because now it's like really entertaining sounding.
Yeah, it's got a good plot. The acting's good there, and it's I love those Christmas type movies. Anytime take a holiday and put a movie up against a holiday, and then we can all relate. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, based around Thanksgiving, right? But the story is just getting home.
Yeah.
Just something as simple as that, and then you go with. Did you see the horror movie Thanksgiving?
No.
From Eli Roth, where it's based around.
Yeah,
it's
you
based
told me
around
about
Thanksgiving.
that. Yeah.
Those
I haven't
ones.
seen that one.
Those unique ones. I'm sure there's Easter ones out there, right? I don't think there's a Labor Day movie yet. Maybe we should make a Labor Day movie.
There's a Memorial Day movie, though, right? No.
It's got to be Arbor Day. Trees come into life. There's 4th of July ones. There's, Uncle Sam type ones. There's Uncle Sam Murderer movies.
Okay. Yeah. I'll check it out, man.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me into, because is it all right if I go into my next one?
Yeah,
here?
go for it.
Well, that leads me into my next one, my second to last one, which is disaster movies. Love me a good disaster movie. I don't care how lame it is. And most of them are pretty lame, but most of them are good. Like, they're good just like turn your brain off and watch, and it's fun. The science it's usually like true to a point, and then they just kind of take it and run with it. And usually the timelines, I didn't expect it to do that. Like, a big one is The Day After Tomorrow, where he's just like, yeah, this was my model, but I was thinking in terms of thousands of years, not days or months, And that's usually the primer for a lot of these disaster movies. Some of my favorites, the old school ones, was like The Towering Inferno, which was just an excuse. I think in the late 70s they did a lot of this, where they would take the biggest movie stars, or maybe even movie stars that are kind of aging out, and put them in these movies because they were kind of cheap to make, and drawn, you can get your money because all this star power that Fred Astaire was in The Towering Inferno. You had Paul Newman and what's the guy from The Great Escape, and I can't remember. Anyways, they had all these big stars in it. But some of my favorites are Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, 2012. John Cusack is in that one. And then, wait, let me get to my list here.
When did that one come out?
2009, I think.
Gotcha.
2012 you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2009. And then Deep Impact. I love that one. I didn't like Armageddon. I just didn't. It was too over the top. And it was Michael Bay. I'm not a big fan of Michael Bay. He's just like the Zack Snyder of the 90s. Just great with action sequences, but just horrible at the storytelling, for me. So I liked Deep Impact better. It was a little more grounded. Not a little more. It was a lot more grounded. Kind of focused on the characters and the drama that they each had, And then they also had the aspect of sending the crew out to the comet to try and destroy the comet. Did you like that one at all? Deep Impact or any of those movies?
Yeah. So I was, when you were talking about it, I was thinking about Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And how I feel like that one's unique because it's not just like the day the impact stuff happens, right? It kind of continues the story on past the initial effects.
Yeah.
That are seen. Is that the one? Is there a scene there where like they're running from like a tidal wave?
Yeah.
Like trying to get up a hill? Yeah. So I remember that scene.
Yeah. They're trying to get into the New York Library, and Jake Gyllenhaal, there's a kid and a mother in a taxi cab that are stuck and the waves coming. And so I forget the name of the lady, the romantic interest goes and tries to save her, and Jake Gyllenhaal has to run down there and save them, all three of them, and then they run in right when the wave hits. And yeah, it's that I like that one too because it does show more of the after effect of whatever happens. And that's something I think. Like we were talking about Terminator, right? And you're a big fan of 2. I'm a big fan of 2, but not, I still think Terminator is the big one. But I think, that's my big gripe with Terminator 2 is that, at the end of the first one, she was going into the mountains and I wanted to see that. I wanted to see I wanted more Sarah Connor. I didn't really care about the son too much. So it's the same thing with disaster movies. It's like I want to kind of see the aftermath of all this stuff, and that's why I liked Independence Day. Yeah, Deep Impact didn't have that, and that was something I wish we could have seen more of. But it was still impressive. Anything. So my worst fear in life is getting married. Or I mean, sorry, a big wave, a big tidal wave. Like that's one of my huge. And so if you have that in a movie, I'll probably watch it. It had it in Geostorm, but Geostorm was kind of lame. But yeah, I think so. My list is Independence Day, and a lot of these is because they have tropes, right? The trope is that scientists that no one believes, the estranged families coming back together, and a president giving a speech. Those are the three main ones that kind of define what disaster movies nowadays are. So mine is like Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, 2012, The Towering Inferno. Airplane is in there. That's a spoof on disaster films, but it's endlessly quotable. You can quote that all day long. And then Deep Impact. So those are my faves. What do you think about disaster movies?
I mean, they're great. They're popcorn movies, right?
Yeah.
But you can also have ones that are more thought provoking. Like, would you consider Don't Look Up a disaster movie?
Yeah, I would. I think it's more in the vein of satire, but
yes,
it's still. I would still call it a disaster movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it mostly popcorn movies that you're sitting there. You got to throw some of the reasoning out the window, right? So the choices people make and how things actually occur and what they might do to try to save the situation. But you're there for the ride of it.
Yeah.
One thing that I would also tie in. With disaster movies, giant monster movies, because that's a disaster, right? So, like, if you think of Cloverfield,
oh yeah,
that's what jumps out at me for a disaster movie. It's people surviving through this event.
Yes,
those things, like we said, Day After Tomorrow, you get to see what happens when the sun is covered and now everything's snowy.
Yeah,
and they're dealing with that aspect of it. And Cloverfield is like, well, what about the people that are running around the city during this disaster, and how are they getting out of the city, and what are they doing to survive? I like that aspect of those disaster movies.
Yeah, that's a cool little niche too, because you kind of get that with that Mel Gibson movie, M. Night Shyamalan movie, Signs.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of this idea of alien takeover, but you're not really focused on the aliens so much as this family that what they do to survive. Which I think is an interesting aspect. That's a good point because that sets up for a lot of tension, a lot of drama, mystery, whatever, because you're not, it's kind of like Deep Impact where you have this comet coming and the focus is really on how it affects the people on Earth and what countries do to kind of make sure that their citizens survive and this and that. So the human drama of that. So yeah, that's a good point.
You've kind of made me think about another guilty pleasure that I didn't really prepare, but it's in the same line of, in the movie aspect of it, of movies that are done in real time. So, like, key for me there is Nick of Time with Johnny Depp. That was the first one that got me into real-time movies. Just that you're able to see what's going on. And it's not long and drawn out like 24 was as a TV show where you're like, you must go to the bathroom during the commercial breaks, right? You're not worried about that sort of stuff because it's only an hour and a half. People can hold their bladder for an hour and a half. But being told, hey, that'd be funny to see, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hold on.
If they came back and they're like, all right, where's Jack? And you hear a toilet flush and he's like, all right, let's go.
You just hear the air dryer go off with the hands.
All right, where were we? Oh, I forgot to wash my hands.
Hold on, I'll be right back. Or he's yelling for toilet paper because the stall didn't have any at CTU. There's a damn bunch of cuts. Yeah, so I remember Nick of Time, though, seeing that and thinking it was so unique back then. And I'm sure it wasn't the first of its kind, but...
Well, movie-wise, the only other thing I can think of is Clue. Remember that movie Clue? Now, I don't think it was marketed as such, and they didn't film it in like kind of like a one take type of like one thing going. But at some point in the movie, they're like, we have to find out who the killer is in the next 39 minutes. And from that point, it's 39 minutes. You know, so I mean, that's the only thing I could think about, but I don't really know off the top of my head.
I'm doing a little quick internet sleuthing here. Phone booth. That was another one that was.
Oh yeah, that was.
Kind of real.
Wasn't there another one with the guy from Terminator Salvation, which was Man on the Ledge or something, and he's on the ledge of a building and something like that. I can't remember. Yeah, phone booth or 20. What is it? Phone booth.
Phone booth. Yeah, phone booth was 2002 with Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, yeah.
Where he was in the phone booth and there's a sniper. Yeah, there's a couple other movies out there. This is saying that like High Noon, you know, as the clock ticking towards noon. Rope by Alfred Hitchcock was staged in real time. So those movies where I can be like, oh man, something's going to happen soon because we're running out of time here, and you can really look at your watch. Those things get me every time.
Well, there's a thing in this little off topic, but there's the thing on Alien Earth. Where at the beginning he's like right around the moon, and he's just like, I can't control the ship anymore, or I can only I forget what it is, but he's like, we're gonna crash, I can't do anything, and he's by the moon, and then he passes the moon, and it's like, well, if you're going that speed, it looks like it's still a 2-day trip to the Earth. So I was thinking if they did that in real time. We're going to crash in the Earth in 2 days. Okay. What do we do? You know,
Austin Powers in the steamroller, right? No.
After 2 days later, I need water. Yeah. So I wouldn't know any other movie that's like that.
Do you have any others on your list?
Yeah, I have one more.
Go for it.
You're going to love this one, dude.
Oh, here we go.
Beverly Hills 90210. Like, for some reason, I only watched the first, I think, 3 seasons, and then I didn't watch really after that. But those first 3 seasons, man, it's just part of it is nostalgia, right? It's this kind of tie to a period in my life that I really enjoyed, or for the most part. But it was a teen drama. I think it was kind of the first of its kind. I don't know. Maybe there was some earlier, but I don't remember. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this. And I think that was the draw of it initially. But my girlfriend at the time and me, it came on Friday nights at 8 o'clock or Tuesday night. I can't remember. It was Friday. Yeah, it was Friday nights because then we would watch Beverly Hills 90210. Then at 9, we would watch Dream On. And then at 9:30, we'd watch Tales from the Crypt, something like that. And yeah, it was just love triangles, issues of the week, mixed with soap opera flair. Characters you couldn't to love and hate: Brenda, Dylan, Kelly, Steve. It had teen fashion, soundtracks, the spin-offs, ridiculous storylines. Donna Martin graduates. Car crashes, Brenda trying to date an older guy while she was underage. Just things that are just crazy. And Brenda was like the most dramatic teen ever. I mean, I don't think that there was a disconnect between her real life persona and her character. I think that they just probably why they casted her and why she never really lasted on a lot of TV shows after this. Because I think she quit in the middle. I think she quit like 6th or 7th season. Brandon was gone in the ninth season, and they went to 10. I don't know why he just didn't wait one more year just for that, you know. But anyways, yeah, it was something that I watched, and now it's on Paramount Plus. So I'll watch every couple weeks. I'll watch about 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes, just to, I don't know. It's just something that it's funny to watch. It's just so, you know, Dylan's, come on, Kel. You know, I don't roll like that. And, like, you know, Dylan was, like, probably 5'8", 5'7", probably weighs about $110, $120. and he gets in. He's like this rebel, on the edge, alcoholic, drug user, recovering, and gets in these fights, and it's like I would not be scared. Or Brandon. Brandon is like has this thing where he's like the goody goody, and so he'll speak his mind whenever if someone tells him to f off, he'll go get in their face. Well, why? Well, just whatever his spiel is at the week that week, and he stands up to racism, and he stands up to classism, and he stands up to dress codes, and he's the writer for the paper, and so he gets these writes these stories, and it's just fun. I don't know why I still like it. I couldn't tell you, but I think this is the definition of a guilty pleasure, because I just couldn't tell you why I like it, because everything points to this is not you. This is not what I like normally. So I don't know. What do you think about teen dramas?
It's funny because on 90210, that zip code, the ugliest person they could find was Andrea. And it was because she had glasses. It was like, oh my God, let's put someone ugly in. Okay, they gotta have glasses.
And she was a brain.
And she was a brain,
and all the other characters, except for Steve Standers, everybody else was like, they were too cool for school, but yet they passed all their classes. Yeah. So
it makes me think of. I feel like the natural progression is going from Saved by the Bell to watching 90210.
Oh yeah, Saved by the Bell.
Because Saved by the Bell, that's a guilty pleasure right there, right? And it's partly like a lot of the stuff we've talked about, the memories that it invokes, right? At the time, the innocence of being a kid and watching it back then and stuff. But Saved by the Bell had so many.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I will say though that Saved by the Bell was kind of still, you could get away with it because you were a kid when you watched it, and you kind of grew with it. Whereas 90210 for me was not something that, I don't know. Does that make any sense? Because 90210 for me was more of, I'm not going to watch that, and then I was watching it. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I don't know. I just feel like with Saved by the Bell, you kind of grew up with that, and it kind of became the thing you watch on Saturday mornings.
Yeah. And watching 90210, even when it was super popular, it felt like, should I be watching this?
Yeah, exactly.
Should I really be watching this? Like, this doesn't.
So you did watch it? Did you watch some of them?
Yeah. So I was on the younger side. I wasn't in high school by the time the 90210 was on the air, but it was a big, cultural phenomenon. Everybody watched it. Everybody was up on the new episodes. Everybody knew that Scott shot himself. Yeah. Right. So
yeah. Well, and they did like 30, 32, 34 episodes a season because they would go the school year, plus they would do summer. So they would go and they would match, like TV did back then. They would match the season. So there was a Thanksgiving episode, there's a Christmas episode, there was like a New Year's episode. There was all this, match the year. And then when school let out, they all went and worked, or Brandon worked at a diner during the year, and then he'd quit and work at the Beverly Hills Country Club or Beach Club, during the summer. And they would end with like, oh, school starts in a couple weeks, I'm going to go back to the Peach Pit. And then the new season would start, and I'm coming back to the Peach Pit, and yeah, it was. I don't know why I liked it. I don't know. It's crazy.
That's a guilty pleasure right there. When you're like, I don't know why.
When you can't even explain it, you're just like, guilty. I watched it, and it was like, I think part of it was, the nostalgia. But at the time, I watched it at the time, so I don't know why I watched it. My girlfriend liked it at the time. I'm not going to blame it her because I watched it when she wasn't around too. So yeah, I don't know. But back then it was like I didn't tell anybody.
We had. I know I hung out with my cousin and his friends, and they were a couple years older than me, and they were big into 90210. I remember seeing it myself. I wasn't, like I said, in high school at that time. Yeah. But I remember they had a friend who looked kind of like Dylan, and he'd start dressing like him, like put on wear vests and shit. And he had like the pompadour style hair. And I remember like, oh yeah, he gets a lot of chicks because he looks like Dylan.
Just Dylan was the,
He was broken. You could fix him, but he also had a heart of gold and did the right thing when push came to shove. I get it. I'd do Dylan.
Yeah, but he was, he was a 28. He wore 28-inch size pants, and he would just stick his nose into like fights. And he was this rich dude, but had the edge. He surfed, but he drank, and he did some drugs. But you could just kind of do this. He would fly away. But he, it was so successful, and I think kind of glamorizing this. That was the image at the time. Not me. I would never. That was the good thing, is like I never aspired to look like these people. Although I did wear vests, not because of Dylan, but just I think my older cousin did, so I copied him. But yeah, so it was this thing of. That was the time too, right? You wore the white shirt with like this vest that had like maybe a pattern on it or something, and jeans and Doc Martens, and that was just the look that I had, anyways. And yeah, it was. Oh man, it's just these things of if some dude that looked like Dylan tried to get in my face, it would. I don't even fight, but I would just not be afraid of that guy at all. So I don't know. What do you got? What do you got?
I think we end it there because I think you've just nailed the premise of having a guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Yeah.
It's laid bare. The funny thing is, half of the time, the stuff we call guilty is really just the stuff that makes us happy. Even if it's cool, if it isn't cool or sophisticated, it still checks that box for us.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point, right? Pop culture isn't meant to be homework. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be something that you feel in your core and you enjoy. So whether it's Weird Al or 90210, sometimes it's just good to just own what you love. Put it out there. Wear it as a seal. Like the things you like. Find the people that are out there that like the things you like, because they're out there. And you can find them now with the internet. You can find those people. Just make sure you verify first. Don't get catfished. But you can find other people that like the same stuff that you like. And that's what we're here doing. We're spreading the love of pop culture out to all of you listeners out there. And if you want to check in and let us know what's your guilty pleasure. Are you in line with Steve? Yeah, are you in line with Steve for 90210? What was your favorite 90210 episode? Do you have a favorite Weird Al song, or did you see Vanessa Carlton in concert? Let us know. And anything that ties in with this show, our socials are down below. You know where to find us on Instagram and all over the place. YouTube, whatever fancy websites have come up since the last week, we're probably there too. So check in, and we will talk to you next time on whatever this is called. See ya.